First story is titled, Am I the a-hole? I found out my sister is pretending to be my daughter's mother. When my 27 female fiancé and I first announced my pregnancy to my family, my sister, 34 female, was a little jealous. I'm assuming it's because she was trying for a baby with her ex-partner, but they broke up because he was a cheat. I gave birth to my daughter 7 months ago. Her name is Kaya. When I returned to work after 12 weeks of maternity leave, my sister offered to babysit Kaya once a week, which has been incredibly helpful. Not too long ago, one of my close friends who also recently had a child approached me to tell me that my sister is in a mother's group on Facebook, and she's posting photos of Kaya and she's calling my daughter hers, and she's also calling her by a different name. My friend sent me screenshots of my sister's posts and I was completely disturbed. So I spoke to my fiancé and we both decided we had to take an action immediately. I went over to my sister's and asked her directly about what she was posting on Facebook. She did not deny it and also had no explanation. Therefore, I told her that she's banned from seeing my daughter. My sister flipped out and said that I can take Kaya away from her, and then called me a selfish witch, and she started crying. I have never seen my sister act this way before. It was alarming. I asked her if there's anything else I need to know because she may as well just spill everything. So she shows me a framed photo she has in her bedroom of her and my daughter, and on the frame is written mother and daughter. I am not going to lie. I did call her crazy, and then I left and haven't spoken to her since, although she continues to try and come over and calls me multiple times a day. My mind is an absolute mess. I don't know where we go from here. Am I the a-hole for how I handle the situation? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole at all. You need to protect your daughter. Your sister needs some serious help. What she is doing is not healthy at all. You could try telling her that she can see your daughter only after she gets into therapy. And I'd also have a chat with her parents too. This sounds incredibly unhealthy and problematic, and can get only worse if left untreated. Not the a-hole. Absolutely. Get your kid and yourself away from her. Sounds like she has some deep, unresolved issues that only a specialist can help her with. Trying to live out her motherhood fantasy through her sister's child. Some people are just bent on being mothers at any cost. Not the a-hole, but it sounds like your sister has some serious psychological issues and needs professional help ASAP. It will probably be safer for everyone to keep your daughter away from her, and you may want to install a home security system as well as inform any other caregivers that your sister does not have privileges regarding being around her. This type of thing is a huge red flag for mental health issues. If you can, you may want to encourage her to get help. Not the a-hole. Agreed with the above poster. OP's sister is screaming for mental health help here. The framed picture, the name change, it's all way too much to say it's just a face. You're absolutely right for avoiding any interaction between your child and your sister, OP. Strongly recommend having a discussion to get her help, especially since you mentioned she's never behaved like this before. Now for the next story. Updated. Am I the a-hole for getting mad at my older sister for asking my daughter to call her mom? My older sister is childless because she unfortunately unable to have children. She volunteers to babysit my 3-year-old daughter all the time. Well, I came home last night with my husband. My daughter and sister were watching a movie in the living room and didn't hear us when we came in. We went in the kitchen to put some stuff away, and I ended up overhearing my daughter asking my sister for something to drink, saying, "Auntie Kay, can you give me a drink please?" And my sister replies with, "Only if you call me mom." I was really upset. I told my husband to get our daughter ready for bed, and once she left the room, I started telling my sister off for trying to get my daughter to refer to her as mom, and told her she won't be babysitting my daughter anymore. My husband thinks I overreacted, and that my pregnancy hormones are getting the best of me. He thinks I should apologize, and thinks even if it does mean more than that, it's probably just my sister still grieving over being infertile. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. WTF. She might still be grieving, but she was way out of line. Some of these you only need to read a title to make a decision. This is one. She needs a therapist ASAP. Did you ask for her reasons, Soapy? She stated in an earlier comment that the sister just stared at her and refused to speak. The husband needs to watch the hand that rocked the cradle. Not the a-hole. Someone's emotions don't give license to behave so incredibly inappropriately. This is not your hormones. Her grief is unfortunate, but not an excuse. What she did was incredibly out of line. Excusing it, justifying it, ignoring it could lead to it being worse. If she's struggling that much, she needs help from a therapist. You have nothing to apologize for. Not the a-hole. Sounds like your sister was playing family with your daughter and your husband where she was the mom. Something seems really off if your husband can't see why it's wrong and defends her. Yeah, I have a feeling she should probably keep a close eye on her husband. Do you really think so? I mean, after I asked my sister to leave, she sat in her car in the driveway. When I noticed she was still in the driveway, I made a comment to my husband about it and he said he'll ask her to leave. He ended up staying outside, sitting in the passenger seat of the car for about half an hour. I don't know what they were doing in there, but when he came back in, he just told me she was really upset and he was just comforting her. How are you doing? Do you have an update on your situation? Yes, I spoke to my husband and it didn't go too well. When I brought up how I didn't appreciate him undermining my concerns about my sister's actions, he didn't really want to talk about it and kept on telling me he doesn't see a point in continuing just a trivial conversation. And when I asked him why he was in the car for so long with my sister, all he would say was that he was comforting her. When I asked about the details of the conversation, he'd avoid the question, telling me that I'm overreacting. I really thought that the best action for me would be talking to my husband, but it made my concerns worse. I texted my sister saying that we need to have a completely honest heart-to-heart conversation. She agreed, and she came to my house the next morning when my husband was at work. My sister apologized to me and admitted that ever since I got married and pregnant, she became extremely jealous because she always wanted a family and she felt as she'd never get one. She started crying, barely even able to get a sentence out, and told me that she did something terrible and that she doesn't want me to hate her. It took her a while to get it out, but she ended confessing that she'd been having an affair with my husband. She told me that when I go to my in-laws' house to help my father-in-law with my mother-in-law, she has Alzheimer's, that they'd see each other when he came home from work, and ended developing a romantic relationship. That they flirted before that, but nothing serious, and that she started imagining herself as my daughter's mom, and even started picturing herself as pregnant. Sorry, I'm really tired while writing this, and haven't really had a good night's rest for a while. I'm so sorry. What they both have done is unforgivable, and my heart just broke for you. I would recommend, discreetly, contacting your state bar association for referral to the top 3 divorce attorneys and go have a consultation with each of them. Find out what your situation would be if you pursue divorce. Go ahead and put someone on retainer and prepare for a divorce. Thank you for the advice. I am 7 months pregnant and I do have a younger sister and an older brother who would be willing to help. I am a registered nurse, just currently not working, but could definitely go back to working. I haven't yet confronted my husband, and I don't think my sister told him she confessed. I'm just in shock and confused. I really thought he'd be someone I'd spend the rest of my life with. Now I'm having a hard time even being in the same room as him. I just don't even know what to say to him or how he'd react. I just feel super emotional over this whole situation. My husband knows something is up, and I know I'm gonna talk to him about it soon. I do plan to talk to a lawyer. Now for the last story. My sister demanded we share my daughter. Okay, so this happened a few years ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday, and to be honest, still can't understand what my sister was thinking. A little backstory. My sister and I had to share everything as kids. Not to mention, I was forced to be her and our younger brother's second mother, but I'll put that in a different post. For some of my childhood, I was happy to share things with my sister. Sweets, snacks, toys, the normal kid things. There's 4 years between us. I'm the oldest, and as you can probably guess, when I reached my teen years, I wanted my own things and spend time alone. Nope, she wanted me to do everything with her. I could barely spend 10 minutes in the bathroom before she would start banging on the door. Unfortunately, when I was around 15, my siblings and I were taken into foster care. We were separated from our brother, which was difficult for both of us. And for a while, I didn't mind my sister wanting to spend all her time with me. Shortly after my 16th birthday, I wanted to have my own space and things that are, well, mine. She would argue with me over not sharing my stuff, and of course, typical sibling fights and yelling happened almost every other day. We sort of grew out of our sibling squabbles over the years, but she kinda developed a the whole world owes me attitude, which drove me crazy. I did my best to hold in my frustrations, but I'm human, and sometimes I kinda snapped. A couple years after my daughter was born, my sister and I weren't really talking much because of her selfish attitude towards me. I spent most of my time and income on my daughter. During one of the times we were in good terms, she was over for the weekend and everything was okay. Until a conversation led to her telling me she was going to take my daughter for a week because she wanted to spend time with her because it was her turn. I said, not gonna happen. She is my daughter, not a dollar pet we share. She gets mad and starts yelling. I told her to leave, and she argues how she had parental rights and social services will force me to allow her to take my daughter whenever she wants. I laughed, told her to get out and don't come back. Honestly, I don't know if she seriously thought that it was her right to have my daughter. Now for the top comments. Sweet jumping daffodils. What is wrong with her? Not gonna lie, I've lost count. Your sister sounds like my mom's younger sister, who would sometimes tell people she was my mother. Wait, what? She wants to share a kid like a doll? How old was she? I have so many questions. Early 20s. Soon found out she was experimenting with these for a while, so... Maybe you should ask for child support if she wants visitation? Glad to hear she's out of the picture. If she ever pulls that crap again, tell her she needs to pay it forward. That being a parent isn't a week here or there. She owes you X amount of dollars, as you have put that much into raising your daughter, and she owes you X hours of free labor, because that's also part of being a parent. Also, she needs to get vomited and pooped on. She has parental rights, lol. Where do these people come from? Don't worry, I finally cut her out of my life and my daughter's life years ago. She tries getting in touch, but I keep telling her to leave us be. Let's just say she became very toxic over the years. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you with the next one. Stay safe. Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister out because she ignored my daughter asking for help because she said it wasn't her responsibility? So I am 45 male, my son is 21 male, Joseph, my daughter is 17 female, Becky, my sister is 50 female, while the mother of my kids / my late wife is dead, and my sister never married. So, my son has found a house closer to his college, so he went and drove out to check it out. Then planned to spend the night at his buddy's place, then spend the rest of the day there, then come home. I was on a business trip, and my sister has moved in with us because she fell into a bad financial situation during these times. She doesn't pay rent or bills. So I was coming home from the business trip I mentioned above, and I get a call from Joseph, and he says that he's taking Becky to ER because she was in excruciating pain. I immediately joined them at the ER, and apparently it's a ruptured appendix. My sister won't answer the phone, so I asked Joseph if he saw her before he left, and he said, yeah, she was in her room watching something on her phone. So then I asked Becky if she talked to her aunts before they left, and she said yes, and that she kept telling her and was practically begging her to do something and that it hurt. But she wouldn't do anything, and told her that she wasn't her responsibility. I lost my cool, so I left Joseph to watch Becky, after they had given her painkillers and put her to sleep. And the doctors had verbally told us anything we need to know, but I admit I need to work on thinking straight while angry. Then went to our house and I asked my sister why she didn't do anything, or at least call me and told her about Becky's condition. She said that she thought she was complaining about period cramps or something, that with that knowledge, she didn't think it was her responsibility to do anything. I told her to leave. She then started apologizing like crazy, but I was seeing red, and I packed her things up and told her to leave. She drove away, and then I returned to the ER. So earlier today, while I was in the hospital, they had moved Becky. My sister calls me and says that she had to beg her friends for a place to stay, and that I'm such a bad person. I laughed and told her to reap what she sowed and hung up. But now looking back on the situation, I think I might be an a-hole for how rude I was to her and for kicking her out. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Sounds like the next time she calls you, tell her she's not your responsibility. Not day-hole. A 17-year-old has been through enough periods, most likely, to be able to handle period cramps herself without much complaining. That's just a BS excuse that your sister used because she didn't want to take care of her knees. 17 or not, if somebody comes to you in that much pain, take them to the hospital. I'm sure you'd rather pay the insurance bill for something minor, rather than your daughter sitting at home in excruciating pain with no answers. Also, women's periods change over the years and can suddenly become painful. Even if it were period issues, the cause could be cysts, fibroids, endometriosis, infections, etc. A 17-year-old, as you say, has been through enough periods to distinguish between painful but normal cramps and something more serious that requires immediate medical attention. Not day-hole. Not day-hole one bit. Even if she wasn't living with you, not helping a family member because she's busy watching something on her phone sucks. Considering she was living with you, she sounds pretty horrible. Her begging her friends and not having a place to stay? Not your responsibility. Not day-hole. Your sister is a freeloader, first of all. Second, your daughter could have died, but your sister didn't care because she's lazy as hell. I'm glad you kicked her out. Please don't ever second-guess yourself. Your daughter really could have died because your sister didn't care at all about anyone but herself. Not day-hole. You helped your sister out when she was in a financial crisis when it wasn't your responsibility to do anything. And she can't even help your minor daughter out in a medical emergency? Listening to your daughter's symptoms is free. Calling 911 is free, especially since she was already on her phone. She sounds like a completely self-absorbed a-hole, and you were right to kick her to the curb. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother's fiancée out of my car on her engagement night? My brother's engagement dinner was last night. I don't like his fiancée for several reasons. She's mean and brutally honest with her comments about my life. Always tries to belittle me every chance she gets. Like belittling my degree and living situation. I'm civil though I have a temper, and sometimes I can be mean towards those with no respect. My wife passed away from breast cancer. We bought a car and it's the first decent car we got. And my wife and I didn't make a lot of money, so it was a challenge to save up. It was her choice, so I make sure to keep it maintained regularly. My brother's fiancé made comments about it, calling it a piece of junk. And it hurt because it's part of mine and my wife's past. When the party was over, my cousin left, was the one who got them to the restaurant, and my brother didn't want to take an Uber. He wanted me to give them a ride. I said okay, but his fiancé stood there saying she wasn't going to ride in that piece of junk on her engagement night. I got really annoyed by this comment, and my mom, who was in the passenger seat, did too. My brother spent 5 minutes convincing her, and she finally got inside the car, but didn't stop with her constant criticisms and how awful and dirty my car was, and continuously calling it a piece of junk. My brother said nothing, so I made eye contact via the rear view mirror and said if she called my car a piece of junk one more time, she's out. I don't care if I drop her off in the middle of nowhere. My brother's fiancé went quiet for a few minutes, then commented on the necklace that was hanging from the rear view mirror, calling it ugly, asking why it hang cheap, ugly stuff to make this piece of junk even uglier. I freaking had it. That necklace belongs to my wife, for Christ's sake. I got mad, I stopped the car and told her to shut up and get the hell out. My brother asked if I was serious, while my mom was trying to get me to continue driving. I repeatedly told her to get out, but didn't. So I got out, walked up to her side and opened the door for her to step out. She started crying, and my brother called me nuts for acting out like that. I told both of them to get out, and they did. I drove off, and Mom didn't stop yelling, saying I can't leave them on the street. They just got engaged. And told me to turn around and pick them up, but I screamed at her to stay the hell out of it, or she'll join them. She told the family what I did, and my dad was pissed, saying it was disgraceful to do this to my brother and his fiancée, and should be ashamed of myself for making a scene on their engagement night. He said I need serious help for my anger, and should have just sucked it up till I got home. Mid-argument, I walked out, leaving him talking to himself. I'm sure my brother doesn't want to see me for letting him down on a special night in his life, but his fiancée was being disrespectful. So, was I the a-hole? Edit. She did not know that the necklace belonged to my late wife. So, while she shouldn't have commented on it, I could see that she wasn't aware of its sentimental value. Not Dayhal. People who are proud of having a brutally honest personality just enjoy being cruel. You had every right to defend your deceased wife's necklace and your belongings. You'd be upset with yourself if you didn't. I'm sorry for your loss. Brutally honest is just code to I'm an a-hole, deal with it. Can't see that marriage lasting long. I came here to say just that. Every self-described brutally honest person I've met is a thin-skinned a-hole can dish out but not take it. Not a-hole. The fact that it was their engagement party is not even relevant to this. In no way does that excuse her awful behavior. No, it doesn't excuse her behavior. I get my brother didn't do anything wrong, but he was there and saw how the fight started, and to blame me solely for the fight I think is unfair. My dad said I needed to get a grip because he knows how I can be sometimes, but if he wants to blame, then he should blame her as well. Not today, Hal. Assuming that you left them somewhere where they can get home from, and weren't in immediate danger of being eaten by a wolf. Why on earth is your brother more assertive with his fiancée when trying to save $20 in an Uber than when she's cruelly insulting his sibling? I don't know why he refused to take an Uber in the first place, but I think it's because his fiancée thought it'd harm her prestige. I could see how she was making insensitive comments about the necklace since she didn't know it belongs to my wife, but her attitude was too much to handle frankly. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my in-laws I'll never cook for them because I don't cook for ungrateful people? My in-laws are big food people. They're also the kind of people who complain about food they get behind a cook's back. I always knew this about my in-laws. My husband warned me, told me he had told them to knock it off before, but they won't, so he refuses to engage. They are that ungrateful that when my grandmother-in-law died, his family were all witching about the food a neighbor brought out to them. Casserole, salad, sandwiches, pizzas, and saying how bland or mad the food was. The food was tasty, and there wasn't a damn thing wrong with it. But that's just them. They never talk like that about each other's food. But as an in-law, you're not exactly exempt from criticism. Another time, they were at a neighborhood barbecue and complained about the stuff other people brought. Even saying something about food a 12-year-old prepared. They made little skewers. And saying it was so obviously a child's cooking, meaning nothing special, as they put it. So anyway, my sister-in-law had her youngest christening recently. She had hired a caterer and they cancelled the last minute. Workers came down with COVID. They ended up asking me if I would help get food together for it. I said no. My husband told them we were busy and didn't have the time for it. Sister-in-law said I usually have chill Saturdays and could easily prepare something. He spoke to them and said in no uncertain terms that I owe them food. What followed was, they stopped by while he was working and I was home, and asking me to make a couple of pizzas for the christening party. I told them they already had their answer. They told me I could get some money thrown my way for it. I told them even if they paid me double the standard price of 2 pizzas, I still wouldn't cook for them with how they treat food made by other people. They told me being part of the family means having to sometimes. And I said I would never cook for them because I don't cook for ungrateful people. They're pissed, and a few of them called me an a-hole. My husband told me they were acting like kids, and I was fine. Part of me feels like the a-hole because I know how they are and I engaged with them. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Stand your ground. They sound awful. You're completely right. There's no point making anything when you already know they'll criticize it. Part of me wonders if that's why the caterer cancelled. She knew she'd get a bad review from them. This. They're going to complain about it, so why make it? If you took the money, they'd feel more entitled to complain. Basically, they're going to complain if Opie does it and complain when Opie doesn't. So why bother putting in the effort? I hate people who complain about food but will still eat them. That's just looking for something to pick on. Not today, Hull. They were told no several times. Only when they continually press did you lay it all out for them. Do not let them bully you. Kudos to your husband for having your back with his family. Yeah, most of these stories have the husband rolling over to avoid conflict. Not today, Hull. I honestly also feel weird about them putting so much pressure on Opie to make food for them, even when they already said no. It makes me feel like they really want other people to bring food so they can criticize it, as if it's a family hobby. Not today, Hull. I've heard you talk crap about every single thing I've ever seen you eat. Why would I want to cook for you? That's not rhetorical. Please, tell me why that would make sense. Last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my friend after she broke my antique easel accidentally? In World War II, my grandpa was stationed in Germany and became friends with a well-known local artist who happened to be Jewish. My grandpa helped him flee the country, and in return, the artist gave him his handcrafted easel, which was already considered an antique at the time. When I was 12, my grandpa passed away and he left me the easel as he knew I wanted to be an artist myself. The easel is worth around $4,000 and is insured. I keep it in my art studio in the far corner of the room, out of the way where it displays my favorite painting. Last week on Friday, we had a small get-together with our friends for the first time since being fully vaccinated. Whenever we have a group of people over, we hang a sign across our stairs that says "Do not cross." I collect antiques, which we display upstairs, and that's also where my art studio is. All of our friends know this is why we don't want people up there. One of our friends, Emily, spilled wine down her shirt, while our downstairs bathroom was occupied, so I let her go upstairs to use the one off of our bedroom. I did not specifically tell her not to go anywhere else upstairs, as I assumed she knew based on the sign that we didn't want people hanging out up there. After about 20 minutes, I realized Emily still didn't come down, so I went up to check on her. She wasn't in the bathroom, so I started looking for her and found her in my art studio on the opposite side of the house from the bathroom. The door had been shut. She was standing over my easel, which had fallen and hit a windowsill, which cracked one of the legs. She immediately apologized, which I said I appreciated, but I asked her to leave as she had broken my trust and boundaries. I told her there was absolutely no reason she should have been in that room, and she said she was just curious. I told her that was no excuse, and again asked her to leave, which she did while crying. Emily did know the story of the easel, and knows how protective I am of it. I have not talked to her since it happened. Our friend group is split. Some think I was too harsh since it was an accident. Others says she was snooping and deserved to be kicked out. Am I the a-hole? Info. Emily and I have been friends for years, although I wouldn't call her my best friend. We are both part of the same close-knit friend group and do hang out alone on occasion. Everyone in the group views Emily as our kid sister, because she grew up in a very sheltered household and can tend to be a bit ignorant sometimes. We all tend to protect her because of this, and that's why I think some of our friends think I'm being too harsh. As for the repairs, I reached out to a museum a couple of hours away that does beautiful restoration work. They sounded optimistic, but advised that there may be a permanent mark where the crack is and a loss of value. We are waiting to hear back on the estimated cost before we send it to be fixed. Not only did she snoop, but she touched it, causing it to fall. It's not like the weight of her glass caused it to fall over. And she knew how important it was to you and how delicate it was, which makes it even worse. In that moment, she disregarded your feelings and your physical boundaries. She deemed her curiosity or whatever as being more important. It is not even the story of origin that made it important, but the fact that it was from your grandpa to you, and it was important to him. I'd honestly never allow her in my home again, and our friendship would be completely different and beyond full repair. Not the a-hole. Thank you. Your response makes me feel a lot better about my reaction. The easel is adjustable and can be folded to become portable, and I think she was messing with that when it fell. I'm not 100% sure, but the part that holds the paintings had been adjusted, so I'm assuming she had been trying to adjust other parts of it as well. I'm so heartbroken about the entire situation, and I don't know if I'll be able to get over this violated feeling. So she had gone as far as physically manipulating it. That's outrageous, especially with an old treasured piece. If she was curious about how it worked, she could have asked you to demonstrate some time. Instead, she took advantage of being allowed to use the bathroom. As for now, she's shown you she can't be trusted to respect you and your property. You were acting accordingly. She crossed your boundaries, and in the process broke a prized possession. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You literally had a sign saying don't cross, and she still went in the room. Stupid games equals stupid rewards. Am I the a-hole for not allowing a friend to move in with me? I, 19 female, come from a wealthy family. Even so, I had a job since I turned 16. My parents got me a car, but I had to pay for my own insurance and gas. I had a limit for how much my birthday and Christmas gifts cost. When I graduated high school and was accepted into a good college, my parents gave me a choice. 1, I live in the dorms. They pay for everything. I get just a bit of spending money, but they won't have a say in my life at all since I am an adult. 2, I live in a 2-bedroom apartment they own in the city. Doorman, gym, pool, and cleaning service. They pay for everything and I have more spending money. In exchange, I have to promise to keep a high GPA, no recreational substance use, no alcohol until I turn 21, and to not have any roommates. Then when I am a junior, the deed to the apartment transfers to my name. I accepted the second choice and it has been great. I'm an introvert, so I appreciate my space. The problem is that a friend I made at the beginning of the semester wanted to move in and I declined. She comes from a middle-class family, paying for her school using student loans, just normal. The first time she was over, she started making some tasteless remarks. Must be nice to never work a day in your life. Must be nice to have mom and daddy wait on you hand and foot, etc. When she wouldn't stop, I just started distancing myself from her. She has been having problems with her roommate from the get-go, but yesterday she just couldn't take it anymore. So she asked me in front of all our friend group if she could move in with me. I said no, she can't. She called me an entitled trust fund baby who didn't know what the normal people's struggles are, and stormed off. Now all my friends say that I'm the a-hole, that I have the space and it wouldn't cost me anything. I could just lie to my parents and they wouldn't know. I disagree, but I thought better to ask because if they don't give it a rest, I'm planning to cut all of them off. I don't need that kind of negativity in my life. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She's rude and uncaring. She already insults you and your family. Well, let her in. Don't let her move in, ever. The fun question would be, would prospective roommate pay rent? I'm guessing we all know the answer. She is vastly entitled to assume that you owe it to her. It seems like her premise was that you'll host her in your apartment. Refusal wasn't a feasible option, and that is why it blindsided her. That's audacious. She can't possibly expect you to jeopardize your relationship with your parents and the privileges they give you because she doesn't get along with her roommates. It seems like she accumulated a lot of envy towards you, and she revealed it now. Not today, home. You shouldn't be lying to your parents, and you have no obligation to provide free housing to anyone, especially someone who makes snide comments about you and has demonstrated they can't get along with roommates. To be fair to her, her roommate is a nightmare, so she isn't at fault on that side. Okay, I take that part back. Still doesn't mean you are required to offer free housing though, especially if it means lying to your parents. If nothing else, guaranteed you would be found out somehow. Even if there was no chance of being found out, I wouldn't lie to them. They are great parents, and I wouldn't want to break their trust in me. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my best friend she's not equal to my fiancé? I'm 28 and engaged to a great man the same age as me. We've been dating since we were 16 and got engaged at 24 4 years ago. I have a best friend, Angela, who's also 28. She's a woman as well. So Angela has barely grown out of high school mentality. She still acts like she did back then. Clubbing every weekend, hooking up, always out with friends, new and old. She never had a boyfriend or girlfriend. She only has had situationships, so she doesn't know how commitment works. I don't judge her for that since she seems fine with her life and I'm happy that my friends are being themselves. And I get to be myself despite having different interests. Lately, I had my suspicions that Angela believes that she still comes before my fiancé, just because we were each other's #1 priority in high school. I tried to slip in multiple times, without being confrontational, that my fiancé and I are gonna be a family soon, and how he's my priority and so on, just to get the message across without having some uncomfortable conversation. She didn't seem to get it though, and something dramatic did end up happening. Angela's birthday was 2 days ago, and she planned on having a celebration tomorrow night. The place she picked was a male strip club. I texted her and told her I wouldn't feel comfortable to attend, because strip clubs cross my and my fiancé's boundaries. It's not because we don't trust each other, but we just don't feel comfortable with that in our relationship. Anyone who knows about this boundary has told us it's a normal boundary, but Angela said that I would be stupid to imply that I'll skip her birthday. I said that we could hang out the two of us someday and go for drinks, but I just don't feel comfortable attending a strip club. She said, "But I'm your best friend. You're not gonna skip your best friend's birthday, are you?" I said, "Sadly, I'll skip it. but I insisted on an alternative for another day. She got disappointed and said she didn't expect me to ever put a man's needs over our friendship. I reminded her he's my fiancé. She argued that him being a fiancé of mine doesn't mean he deserves special treatment over her. I told her that's exactly what it means, and I reminded her that she's not equal to my fiancé anymore in such situations, because he's the person I'm gonna marry and have a family with, and he's my #1 priority. I probably shouldn't have said that because she claims I'm the a-hole, and that I replaced her when I used to have her as my #1. I apologized for that phrasing and tried to explain what I meant, but she wasn't having it and said I should go cry to my fiancé and she doesn't need my fake apology. I didn't mean to hurt her feelings. I just felt like she was pushing me and had a one-sided competition with my fiancé, and I said that. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You set a mutually agreed upon boundary and you're following it. If she can't understand and respect that, she's not your friend. Many people would be uncomfortable having a birthday in a strip club, not just you. If she truly didn't consider that when she made the decision, that's her fault. Also, she was the one who pushed you to prioritize between her and your fiancé. If she wasn't going to be happy with your response, she shouldn't have put you in that position. I'm female, straight and single, and I would be uncomfortable going to a strip club and would decline an invite from anyone. Not today, home. You two are growing up. It's life, and it happens. How we handle it is up to us. But the sounds of it, you are a good and supporting friend. Even though the dynamic is changing, you are still there for them. Just remember they may not see it that way. All you can do is try your best to remind them they are still important to you, but there are boundaries. Hope this helps, and best of luck. I tried to explain it to her after I tried to apologize. She's definitely still one of the most important people in my life, but she has a hard time understanding boundaries and priorities because she's more free-spirited than I am. She doesn't know what those terms mean. I can't entirely blame her, but sometimes her insisting on putting herself above my fiancé seemed on purpose, so I felt disrespected. I would suggest giving her more time to adjust. I know I had a bit of a hard time when my friends were getting married. It can be a little scary, but the effort you were putting in should help her to adjust. Does she get along with your fiancé? That may be another reason she's lashing out. They get along. They're not best friends exactly, but they're friendly with each other, but have different interests, so they can't communicate about much. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to stay home with my kids while my husband attends my brother's wedding? I'm a stay-at-home mom and my husband works full-time. We have 3 kids and one of them is 2 years old. My husband helps a lot with the kids. He's a committed dad, but is absolutely against babysitters, due to an awful incident with a babysitter that was the reason his younger male cousin James got disabled years ago. I don't go out much since I have to take the kids with me, and not every place is suitable for kids. We received an invitation from my brother's, who has been my husband's friend since college, wedding which we later discovered was child-free. My brother lives states away, so the entire trip will take 4 days, as well as my brother's in-laws' weekend dinner party, their tradition. I told my husband I want to go, since it's been a while since I've been to a wedding, and this one is special, and suggested we get a trusted friend as a babysitter. He asked if I was serious to consider leaving our 2-year-old with a babysitter, and suggested that I do what I normally do and stay home with the kids while he goes to the wedding. I refused, and said I have as much right to attend as him since we both were invited. He said it wasn't his fault my brother wants a child-free wedding, and I should do this for the kids and sacrifice for their sake. I still refused and said this was unfair, and since he's a parent too, then he should also stay for the kids. He looked at me and said, "That's my best friend's wedding you're asking me to skip for Christ's sake. Are you kidding me?" Then said I was being petty for suggesting this and that I was basically choosing to go and party over keeping our kids safe. He asked me to consider this a business trip. What would I do? Go with him and leave the kids? I said I understand his paranoia of babysitters, but really all my friends have sitters and at times they're really needed. He said I ought to know better than what my friends tell me and this wasn't even up for discussion. And when I kept arguing, he called me selfish and said he won't let me ruin his relationship with his friend because I was being spiteful for not being able to attend, and that my brother will understand my situation. He keeps asking who's more important, a wedding party or my kids, and said I was unreasonable for making my attendance the hill to die on. Am I the a-hole? Am I being selfish for wanting to attend this wedding, my brother's wedding, after 4 years not attending anything? I have a hard time to believe your husband is a good dad. Every single sentence from him smells like entitlement and selfishness. If you can't go to your brother's wedding, so can't he. Why doesn't he stay at home and you attend? Since this never came to his mind, he thinks less of you and your needs. You are the servant for the children, not his wife who is on the same level. This wedding shows you what kind of person your husband is and what he thinks of you, not Dayhall. Literally, every single accusation he's trying to throw at Opie is equally applicable to him. The hypocrisy and obtuseness are truly astounding. Exactly. Why should Opie miss her brother's wedding? Call me old-fashioned, but I think brother outranks best friend. When was the last time Opie's husband stayed behind? Not Dayhall. This is insane. It's your brother, and somehow your husband thinks he is the one who should get to go? When he's the whole reason you can't both go because of his unreasonable paranoia about hiring a babysitter. Honestly, if I were you, I'd be absolutely prepared to die on this hill. He's got away with holding you hostage to this nonsense for years. There's not one single logical reason why he should be allowed to attend rather than you. And if he was prepared to work on his own emotional baggage, then you could just hire a sitter like any other couple would do in this scenario. This is 1,000,000,000% on him. If anyone stays home with the kids, it should be him. He never stays behind. It's about time he did. He wants no babysitter? Well, he is dead, so he can stay and let Opie go to her brother's wedding. What I don't get is, it's her family. Is there not someone in his family who can watch the kids if he wants to go so bad? Not stay home. If he's the one against a babysitter, then he should be the one who stays at home. Your relationship seems very one-sided, and you shouldn't stop yourself going out. Tell him to try another babysitter, or he stays at home while you go out. Also, he says it's his best friend's wedding. It's your brother. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not taking in my fiancé's niece and nephew? My fiancé's sister and mother just passed away in an accident, and her sister left behind her 6-year-old son and daughter. And my fiancé pretty much immediately started talking about flying the kids here to move in with us. I've never been interested in having kids. I have nothing against kids in general. I just personally don't want to raise or live with any kids. But I've always been very clear on that, and I thought my fiancé was the same. So I reiterated my stance in having kids, and said I'm not going to change my mind on that now. My fiancé claims we're the only people who can take in these kids, which seems strange because she has a brother who has the bonus of living close to where the kids have been living, so they wouldn't even have to change schools. My fiancé says her brother can't take them because of money and being too busy, though I'm sure he could do it if he really wanted to. I'm pretty sure he gets money from the government for taking in orphan kids if you need financial help. Also, he's about to inherit a bunch of money from his mom. Instead of my fiancé insist on taking in these kids, we will no longer be compatible and will unfortunately have to end the relationship, and she'll have to move out of my place. She's mad that I'm making her choose between me and the kids, even though there's really nothing else I can do because I simply am not going to take in these kids. I just have zero interest in raising kids. I think it's completely unfair to expect me to upturn my life for 2 random kids I've never even met, just because her brother can't be bothered. She claims I'm basically saying the kids have to go to foster care, or I'll kick her out and leave her with nowhere to go and 2 kids to care for. Which is a bit dramatic because again, they have an uncle I bet who could take them in with a bit of effort. And if she really must be the one to take them, she could just move into her mom's old place or her sister's old place. She's also saying that I'm basically threatening to break up with her and kick her out right after her mom and sister died. But I don't see that I had a lot of choice since she was ready to bring 2 kids into my place. And it was either tell her my stance now, or wait until she'd already moved them in. Am I the a-hole? Nah, difficult situation. But you shouldn't have to change your life for these kids, though I would accept this as the end of your relationship. Yeah, it really sucks. But if she really must take these kids in, then we just aren't on the same path anymore. Even if she decides she can't take care of the kids on her own and stays with you, the resentment will probably end a relationship for you. This is a no-win situation. There's no way this doesn't end the relationship eventually. Not the a-hole for the sentiment, but if you're sharing it with her the same way you're putting it here, very much the a-hole for that. You say you thought she didn't want kids, but this has nothing to do with her wanting or not wanting kids. These are kids who already exist and who she already loves, who need help. If you're not willing to give that help, you can communicate that boundary, but you make it sound like she's gone all baby hungry or something. She hasn't. She's trying to simultaneously cope with crushing grief, care for 2 loved ones, and probably also trying to make sure she honors what her sister would have wanted. The way you talk about this whole situation doesn't seem to reflect empathy for that. I'm guardian for my developmentally disabled niece should something happen to her parents. Did I love that idea? No. Would I do it? Yes, to the absolute best of my abilities because I love her. Life sometimes throws you curveballs. I hope he doesn't want to be part of that, and that is okay. Fiancé will be better off without him, although that sting is likely going to take years to get over. No a-holes here, but can't say you're the most emphatic or lovely person. They're not two random kids. They're her sister's kids, man. Yeah, that bothered me a lot. I hope he has no empathy / willingness to see this from her point of view that this is her family, not kids just pulled off the street on a whim.